Hey, this is Al, and I am here in Philadelphia, USA. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Is Pennsylvania an important state? You bet it is. Everybody needs to move to Pennsylvania. Actually, I shouldn't have said that. That's probably going to get out on the interwebs. We are here because, one way or other, everybody in this room believes in the crazy idea that poetic stuff and conversations and poems should be free and available to absolutely everybody. 10 years later, Tracy's applauding. It's the idea I want us to begin with, and it's the idea via one of the great ModPo people who's living in Australia, is not able to come today, repeats at the very end. I just want to repeat this concept. It was thought of as kind of weird and maybe controversial back in 2012 that we would lower the barrier completely and take this precious material and these precious people who are salaried by lots of institutions that would like them to spend all of their intellectual energy on the people right near them who are generally tuition payers and local and between 18 and 22 generally, and not share that with anybody else. A kind of hoarding, if I may, academic hoarding that I think, and here's Amber Rose Johnson making just a little bit of an entrance. Amber Rose, are you good? Are you good being in the audience and using a portable mic when it's time? Maybe first row would be good. And here's Ray Maxwell. Hey, Ray. Welcome back to the Writer's House. And enough people believed in this that they thought that as year one gave way to year two, that they should stick with it, and we just convinced Coursera to let us be an open, ongoing session. So there are people in this room who've been here forever, since 2012, 10 years, and it's kind of a reunion. So we're doing three things in this webcast. One, we are having a regular weekly week 3 Rise of Modernism, Imagism, etc. webcast. I don't know how much of that there will be, but I have a few questions for our panel on some of the poems possibly, and that may come into us from people afar and in the room. That's one thing we're doing. The second is we're celebrating 10 years of ModPo, and it may be that a lot of people have something to say about what that experience has been for them, and you're free to do that instead of focusing on the Imagist poems. And the third thing we're doing is we're beginning the day to celebrate this volume, which is a collection of 50 essays written by poets. I'm not a poet, but I have an essay in there, so I fucked up the whole thing. But
You're a secret poet.
Secret poet. Thank you, Ron Silman. I was waiting for Ron to say something sweet. Ron, by the way, who's become the sweetest person in the whole world. Oh, that implied that you weren't sweet at some time. Sorry. Ron is so sweet, and he's been such a supporter of ModPo from the start, and we of him, of course, and he's in this book writing about Stein. Am I right? Yes.
The difference is spreading.
The difference is spreading, as a matter of fact. The titular essay. Anyway, the third thing we're doing is celebrating this, and we're going to really be doing that tonight, but we're doing that here in this webcast. So it's three things, and we have the TAs, so I'm going to introduce. There are TAs in the room, and there are TAs in the Zoom, and everybody who's watching from afar can see them, and thanks to Zach's genius, we set up a way for you and the audience can see them, and everybody here can see them. Somehow, there are TAs, there are people in the room who care about ModPo, and there's this panel that we, very carefully and dearly curated their travel. They came a long way, and though it's a 3-ring circus, I'm hoping that I can do a little MC magic based on the caffeine that I had this morning, which is, as you know, many of you know, a really bad idea and a really rare thing. But that will speed things up to 78 RPM, and I just want to call on everybody when it's your turn to speak, and I'll try to organize, that everybody gets a chance to speak briefly and to the point, which is not something that a lot of poets, even those at this table, are really that good at. Okay, so we're going to only take 3 calls from afar today. Usually the whole thing is based on the calls, but we're going to take 3 calls. And the second caller is going to get a free copy of The Difference is Spreading. Now, that's a psychologically complicated thing, because the first caller will take a while to come in because they're waiting for to be the second caller. So let me just say that the first and second caller will receive a copy, and the third caller will be just a bonus. The number is 610-616-3208, 610-616-3208, and if you're calling from outside the U.S. or North America, you'll be able to use a Skype call, ModPo Pen, And we have Chris Martin, who's been here from the start since 2012. There he is. Wave, 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 Chris. And a few years ago, Chris took the call-in mic away from Anna and then from Lily, because it turns out that Chris never gets to talk to ModPo people, and now he's like there on the phone where we're trying to have a webcast. He's saying, oh, it's good to hear from you. So 610-616-3208 or Skype at ModPo Pen. We're going to be having some people do Twitter. Max, are you loaded up with Twitter? Do you feel Twitterish today, Max McKenna? Okay, Max is going to look at the Twitter feed, and all you have to do is use hashtag ModPo Live, ModPo Live. And who is cool? Amber Rose, what kind of device do you? I don't want to burden you with that. Okay, Amber Rose is going to follow the YouTube chat, which is usually crazy lively. And we have a special discussion forum. No, you've got a phone, Sophia. That's probably not good. No, who's got a laptop who can manage this? Dave Poplar. Hey, can you check on the special forum? Great. Okay, great, Dave. All right. So now I'm going to introduce our TAs and then our special guests, and we'll get started. I'm not really sure exactly how that will work, but we'll go. First of all, Amber Rose Johnson is here. Hey, Amber Rose. Allie Castleman has traveled from New York, is here. Allie Castleman. Jason Zuska is here. He's on the Zoom. Hey, Jason, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey. Great.
Jake Marmer is here from California. Not here, but in the Zoom. Gabby Ojeda Segay is here. Hi, Gabby. From Chicago. Max is here from Berlin. Hi, Max. Kate Colby is here from Providence. And Erica Kaufman is here from the Hudson Valley. Sophia DuRose is here. We love Sophia. Did I miss a TA, anybody? Dave Poplar is here. Hey, Dave, an original ModPo TA. Okay, and we have our coordinator who succeeded Anna as the coordinator of ModPo, a poet, a teacher, a genius, a wonderful person, and a pal, Lainey Brown. And we have an original ModPo TA and the first coordinator of ModPo, and now second coordinator of ModPo. I guess Kristen was I? Julia Block. Was that the designated role?
I don't know what my title was. I can't remember.
We're going to get to you in a second. Anyway, Anna Strong Safford is here. So thank you, TAs. We are so happy to invite friends of ModPo. Many of them are in ModPo videos. Many have been here many times. We're really excited. These are 6 of the many people, of the 50 who contributed essays. So put your hands together, because some of them came a long way. It is kind of a long way, because of the way excerpts are working. Ron Silliman there at the end. Ron. Herman Beavers has joined us. Hey, Herm. Monica Della Torre is here. It took less time to come to Philly than it does from traveling from Queens to Brooklyn to teach. And there's something wrong with the Queens to Brooklyn situation, but we can talk about that another time. The divine Tracy is here, Tracy Morris. Liz Willis came from Iowa, as did Tracy, but different planes. And an original ModPoer, and really someone who formed so many of the interactive social structures of this course and really kept us doing the paces and led a number of the second-year videos and was in so many of them. A dear friend and the director of our creative writing program, a colleague, friend, and a poet, Julia Block. All right. And I mentioned Chris Martin, but I just want everybody to acknowledge the amazing Zach Cardner, who's there. All right. And I won't single out people who've come a long way from the audience. I already did that a little bit. So why don't we get started? By the way, the number is 610-616-3208. Okay, so we didn't plan this, but I thought we would start with 13 ways of looking at a blackbird. Holy Toledo. So it's not imagistic, although somebody could argue that each one individually tries to be an imagist poem, but together it's more cubistic. And so I thought that I would ask Julia and Herman to each pick one of the silly they're all silly to some degree because that blackbird is so ubiquitous. Like, damn, blackbird keeps showing up. So I would like Julia and Herm, did I do that right? Did I remember that right? To pick one section. Then I'm going to invite a few people from the list of distinguished guests and TAs to just comment in any way they like on either of those two sections. Herm, what's your choice?
Number 10.
Number 10. And would you perform that one?
Certainly. At the sight of blackbirds flying in a green light, even the bawds of euphony would cry out sharply.
Love that. Okay, and Julia, your choice?
Number 3.
Are we getting Julia's mic?
Is my mic on? Is my mic on now? Yep. Number 3. The blackbird whirled in the autumn winds. It was a small part of the pantomime.
Wow, you guys chose ones I wouldn't have expected. Okay, that's cool. All right, so let us ask Anna, Monica, and Lainey to start us off. Comment in any way on either of those two poems. So, Anna, you're first. Are you rusty?
What? Never. Hey now.
Hi, Anna.
It's
Good
been
to
a
see you.
minute.
We getting good audio on Anna's mic? It's not. I'm not hearing it in the room. Okay. Yes, the TAs are saying so. All right, Anna.
I love
comment?
the one that Julia chose. I'm reminded of that really fiddly thing that imagist poets sometimes do, where they actually kind of can't contain themselves to like a still thing. They actually sort of have to put it in motion. So I love the blackbird whirling in the autumn winds. It reminds me a little of HD's Oread or Sea Rose.
Nice.
That even though the imagist poem is supposed to be about this perfect distillation, this hard, clear thing, kind of can't resist like the impulse to put it in motion.
Boy, you aren't rusty. Snaps for Anna, not rusty. Okay, Monica, pick one.
Yeah, on the same section. I just love the word pantomime in there. I love that word. It says so much about the poetics of this poem, in the sense that it seems to be indicating that, you can see the critique of the pathetic fallacy here, meaning it's not, nature is not there harmoniously to mimic or embody the emotional state of the speaker. It's actually theatrical and garish. It's a pantomime. It's exaggerated and off-key. I love that.
That's a Monica-esque comment in itself. Really great. All right, Lainey, your thought on either one?
I also was going to go to the word pantomime because I feel like the stanza points at the question, what is a pantomime? What exactly are we seeing? And I'm noticing that it is soundless. So we're looking out the window at a scene, but we can't hear anything because it's a pantomime.
Love it. Thank you. Herm and Julia, briefly, why did you pick the one that you picked? Herm?
The blackbird in the green light is just a really powerful image because if you merge black and green, they become something else. So it's not sure if it's an intentional transformation or a random transformation. And then I just like that word euphony.
How can you not like the word euphony in the phrase bawds of euphony? And if you're from New Jersey and you say BAWD, it's a real thing. It is absolutely a real thing. Did you notice that? Not to mention from Brooklyn. Julia, why'd you pick the one you picked?
So I'm always a sucker for a couplet. I love a couplet. I love how it's neat. It's just the two lines, and they do so much. But I also was drawn immediately to that word pantomime, and I thought it was so weird because it's suggesting that this nature scene, this scene of natural landscape and beauty, is somehow being a scene of mimicry, an imitation, and not something otherwise natural or given or assumed.
That's very cool. All right, now we turn from week 3 to a comment about ModPo. Anybody out there in the audience, or original TAs or longtime TAs, who would like to say something to get us started? Just anything about ModPo, the significance of it, and then I'll ask a few people to respond. Did Dan have a comment on the Stevens, Michael?
He did.
Do you want to say it? Let's get it into the record. Wait, we need a mic.
Dan says the word pantomime is provocative because the sounds of the words in the poem are so important, and it contrasts with euphony.
That's lovely. Thank you. All right, let's go to, how about Matt Lutwin and Irene? Hi, Irene. Matt came from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Irene from Madrid. Pittsburgh, Madrid, Pittsburgh, Madrid. Who votes for Pittsburgh? No, I'm sorry. That was just a rude thing to say. It is part of Pennsylvania, which is a very important state. Did I say that already? Matt.
Yeah.
And you're also working with the Steel Union. Can I just say that Pittsburgh needs you?
Thanks, Al. ModPo, as I was thinking about the 10-year anniversary and sort of how to celebrate this and how to think about what ModPo has done for me, the word orienting came to mind. So, and I mean orienting within these traditions that we're talking about, these lineages, the way that Stein influences people writing today, and as an example that I'm really drawn to, and it means so much to be oriented in this like crazy sort of radical modern contemporary poetry, all of these experiments, all of these ways of doing things, reacting to things, and to have people to talk to about all of that, it means the world to me, and so I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you, Matt. Isn't that great? Thanks, Matt. Let's hear it from Matt. I mean, that was just so... Before Irene gets a chance to speak, I want to ask Max and Jake Marmer and Ron just to respond in any way to the comments that they have just made about this. Irene?
Yeah, hello. Well, I'm very happy to hear long trip from Madrid, and thinking about ModPo, it's difficult to say what's more important, because as a poet, I feel it has helped me and taught me so much about American poetry, about writing, about writers. But also the pedagogy of ModPo is something that I don't know, it stayed with me. I feel I want to have in my classes. So yeah, I cannot say what's more important, what's better, probably both. And I'm just very happy to be here.
We're happy you're here. And so Irene has 2 books of poetry. Will you very slowly say the title of the 2 books for us?
Yeah, the first one is La Conquista del Espacio. So the Conquest
of Space.
And the second one, it's Límites de Bruma, some sort of mist limits.
And the first one has some poems, mostly Spanish, but some poems in French and a couple in English.
Yeah.
So maybe if people are interested in finding a way to get a copy, they can talk to Irene afterwards. Okay, so I want to call on Ron, Jake, and Max, starting with Max. Comment in any way on what Matt and Irene just said about ModPo. Max, you've been here from the beginning. And you don't look a day older, by the way.
Well, I really like what you had to say, Matt, about these genealogies of influence as a way of thinking about what the ModPo pedagogy, or maybe even the larger ModPo project, is kind of keeping these I don't want to say keeping these genealogies alive or something, or teaching them as canon, but rather like creating space for conversations about something like influence, which was the topic of our last week's webcast, right? Of kind of doing this historical work of keeping the past dynamic alive, open to interpretation, open to these different interesting intersections and collisions, and just generally challenging the way we receive literary history.
Thanks, Max. Let's turn to Jake Marmer. Thoughts about ModPo in response to what you just heard?
Hi, everybody. I was going to say that I'm still stuck on Bods of Euphony, but I'm also stuck on Conquest of Space and Garish of Key Pantomime. That's essentially like my a lot of my experience with ModPo. Like, it feels like we're talking about poetry, but the space of talking about poetry is very much an extension of poetry, and also poetry and near poetry. And I'm so pleased to have this space and be in it with so many folks.
Thanks, Jake. Good to see you. And Ron, your thought?
I've been around this project so long that I can remember when Al had a MOOC that was not in HTML. And it is amazing to watch how it has expanded and grown. 2 years ago, I was in Zaragoza, Spain, and the person who was putting on the reading ended up in the hospital, from which unfortunately he did not emerge. And there was some question as would anybody in Zaragoza, often described as the Pittsburgh of Spain,
Oh my God.
show up for the reading.
You're amazing.
But I had an auditorium full of people who had seen me on ModPo, and thus had a wonderful event and a great occasion. And I've had the same experience in Mexico and elsewhere. ModPo is a global resource for American poetry. We try hard, I think, to keep it from being an act of global imperialism, but we have to be mindful in order to do so. And I'm totally on the side of Bods of Euphony as well.
We knew that already. You being one of them.
At least a bod. There are, in most, not all of the 13 sections, there is a word like pantomime, like bods, like innuendos or barbaric that jump out. And I often think of those as being the true blackbirds of that poem.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ron. That was great. I'd like to, Tracy. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Al.
It's good to see you. You want to bring that mic real close?
I don't think I need that.
Okay, no, I don't think Tracy Morris doesn't even need a mic.
Well, that's true.
Period.
I'm supposed to be trained to project. I wanted to say, if you don't mind, something about ModPo and this poem. That ModPo, Happy Birthday ModPo, is one of the places where I see this poem by Stevens, and it immediately makes me think of 26 Ways of Looking at a Black Man by Raymond Patterson, and 13 Ways of Looking at a Black Boy by Tony Medina, and that we could talk about all three of those poems in one place. And that, to me, epitomizes why ModPo is so important.
That is cool. Thank you, Tracy. That was lovely. We have someone on the phone. Chris, who is this person on the phone?
Yes. We have a long-distance call from Australia. Catherine is on the line.
My gosh. Kat, can you hear me, Kat?
Hello.
Hi, Kat. So by my calculation, it is 1:30 a.m. Thursday.
That sounds right.
Amber Rose just said to me, how do you know that? You know, I lay at... Not only that, but I know this is Kat McCreedle here. I know Kat. Hi, Kat. Sorry you couldn't be with us today.
Well, I am. Hi, Alan, everyone.
Yeah, you know, your boss gave you today off, today being Thursday for you. You have the day off, so you can
yes.
stay up as late as
Yes,
you want.
Yes, because of colonizing queen dying.
Oh, the colonizing queen died and you get a day off?
That's right.
Well, there are some Australian contradictions in that. Well, you know what? I don't want to say one thing or another about the Queen's death, but I will say that there is a silver lining because you got to call us. Hey, Kat, did you have a comment or a question?
I'm an evening all afternoon person.
Oh, good. You're going back to the poem?
Yes.
Okay.
And apart from that, all I really wanted to do was say happy birthday and thank you. And I expect to see you all dancing to Earth, Wind and Fire later on.
You will only see us, Kat, if you stay up for the 6 p.m., and that would be 8 a.m. Oh, it'll be morning on Thursday. Breakfast with ModPo. That's a new thing. Kat, will you do me one favor? This is the weirdest thing I'll ever ask you to do.
Right.
Oh, you're not going to say yes? You're just going to ask what it is first? I would like you, from the furthest point we can imagine here in the East Coast of the United States, to lead us in a round of happy birthday to ModPo. Will you lead us in singing happy birthday?
Oh, sure.
Okay. You pick the key and we'll sing. This is so weird.
Happy birthday to you.
Louder!
Happy birthday. It's never on day to you. Happy birthday, dear ModPo.
Happy
birthday to you.
I heard some harmony in there. Kat McCreadle, love you so much. Thank you for calling. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Love you too.
See you
Bye.
soon. Bye. Kat joined us just last year. But speaking of a birthday, Anthony Kolosny is here. Where's Anthony? Hey, stand up, Anthony. So Anthony was part of the original Washington, D.C. crowd. Ray Maxwell was here too. Anybody else? Ray, stand up and say hi. Anybody else from the D.C. crowd here? Is John Knight here yet? John's supposed to be here. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, Greg Gallagher. You're now in Philly, though, aren't you? No, you're still in D.C. You're in Virginia. Okay. These three and others were part of a really important group. Ray formed the Breakfast Club, which was an online thing, and they were meeting weekly. I think Anthony's group is still meeting. Anthony brought with us a cork from the ModPo Final Words from 2012. A cork. ModPo 2012, November 19th, 2012. And Dan, I would love for you to spell out what happened on that day, because it was a very memorable day for Dan. And also a Writer's House cup that's signed by Lily. Lily writes like Stein, he, and he. Or that might be and me. Molly, who's in L.A., signed it. Chris writes bottoms up. Anyway, and he gave us, Anthony brought this. And so unless anybody's against opening up a giant bottle of champagne at lunch over Indian food, we accept that. Anthony, thank you, Greg, Anthony, and Ray for being here. Okay, so 2 more calls we will take, 610-616-3208. I would like us to turn to Tanya Foster, A Swarm of Bees in High Court. And I'm going to ask a couple of our ModPo friends up here or out there to pick. So these are pairs of haiku-like short condensed poems. They're pairs, so they turn out to be variations of each other, the 2 pairs. Very interesting poem or section of this book. And so I'm going to ask 2 people to pick pairs, and then I'm going to ask a few people to respond to either or one or both. Okay? So, Tracy, will you pick one? And then I'll ask Allie Castleman to pick one. And then for responding, I'm going to ask Gabby I'm going to try to remember this. And Ray Maxwell. Ray, do you have a text of the poem with you by any chance? No, this is Tonya Foster's. Laney's going to get you a copy, Ray, if you don't mind. It's totally optional for you. And Liz Willis, will you do the same? So
pick one or?
no, you're going to respond. Okay. So who's picking? I forgot already.
Me.
So Tracy's picking. Is somebody else picking?
I'm picking.
And Allie's picking. And Liz, Gabby, and Ray are responding. Did I get that right? Okay. But first, I think did Dan tell us what happened on that day, November 19th, 2012?
Yes, he did.
You need a mic, sorry. We're using up all the mics today.
Dan says, I include a clip in my video, but basically I joined society at that webcast.
Yay.
Yes, and Dan has prepared a video tribute that we will play in a few minutes. It's really spectacular. Okay, Tracy and Allie, pick a pair. There are only 4 that we've excerpted, so.
Okay, a pair. I'm going to pick the pair on page 46 of the book.
What does it start?
She wants a sleep.
She wants a sleep. Would you read those 2?
Yes.
Please.
She wants a sleep that shudders thought like the sparse corner bodega. She wants a sleep shut against the neighborhood, graffiti of noise.
Thank you. And Allie, do you want to pick a pair?
Yes. What page is that? So this one is on the second page of our excerpts, page 39 of the book. And I can't do a reading like Tracy can, but
Nobody can do a reading like Tracy. So.
it goes, he's asleep after telling her about the boy. He was his father's fists. He's asleep. She can't fall to a nap that won't keep or unkink.
Fabulous. Thank you both. Liz, do you want to start? Any response at all to either of those?
Sure. Well, since we're on 39 right now, this is such a gorgeous pairing. I'm really struck throughout this book, but especially on this page, with the ways that something contains something else. So when he's asleep, after telling her about the boy he was, his father's fists, like the he is containing this other younger self that gets to be revealed through speech. And then the fact that he, this embodied figure, is also asleep is this other thing. So everything is always more than one thing. The world is animated in that way.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Liz. Gabby, your thought on either or both?
Yeah, let me know if my sound is weird. I'm
Your
again
sound
in a
is not
public
weird.
place.
Are you
Okay, cool.
Are you still traveling? You're in a restaurant or something?
I'm traveling again. I'm in New York for like a millisecond. I come back tonight. It's been a weird month. Anyways, okay, yeah. So I'll respond to the pair that Tracy picked. We have this like speaker who really wants to like kind of control outside impression, who really wants to kind of close herself away from things, get a serious like control over a restlessness. And what I like about this poem is that there's little like wordplay things, asleep to asleep, or he was, comma, his father's his, kind of feel restless in the same way we get a sense that our speaker is. We have like this poem that has all these little like nods, no pun intended, actually kind of pun intended, that like really feel like the speaker that we have that's like kind of trying to, I don't know, close themselves off from things and isn't quite successful at it.
Thank you, Gabby. That's great. Ray Maxwell, we need to get Ray a mic. Does Ray have a mic? Yes, sorry, it'll take a second. And do you mind standing, Ray, so we can catch you on the camera and so forth?
Okay, how about this hive of sound? Bass buzz. I'm on the right place?
No, I don't think so. You just picked a different pair. That's fine. If you don't mind reading it, then comment.
Oh, page 50? Okay.
Okay.
I guess I picked a different page.
That's all right.
This hive of sound, bass buzz, engine crank, voices laughed, seal the sonic cracks. This hive of sound, she repeats that, bruises her last 2 a.m. nerve, as if beats blind us. There's an interesting repetition of the first line of this hive of sound, and maybe every first line repeats itself. I don't know. No, it doesn't. So there's that repetition. There's a certain onomatopoeia, I think they call it, where the words sound aids the sense. I guess it is. Bass buzz, you can hear that buzz. Engine crank, you can almost hear that engine crank. Of course, we know voices laughed. Seal the sonic cracks is something I'm having some trouble with, although I can see these things closing the cracks in the sounds that might ordinarily exist. But then when she says, this hive of sound bruises her last 2 a.m. nerve, that sounds like something my mother would say. Bruises her last 2 a.m. nerves, as if beats blind us. So that here we have a combination of the sound of the beats and the sense of vision, kind of compressed together.
That's great. Ray Maxwell. Yeah, snaps for Ray. And Ray, you look exactly the same as you did 10 years ago. It's amazing. I don't know how you're pulling that off. I want to turn to Julia B., Monica, Amber Rose, Kate, and Erica, that group. And I want to ask you to respond to two things that you're about to hear. First, you're about to hear me read a testimony from Virgil Houston, a longtime CTA and friend of ModPo, joined us in 2013, talking about his experience. And then we're going to play Dan's video. And so I'm going to ask Julia, Monica, Amber Rose, Kate, and Erica simply to respond to either or both of those things. Zach, this is a heads up for you. But first, I'm going to read what Virgil wrote. This is in a thread that has been set up, kind of a happy birthday thread in our discussion forums for people just to send well wishes and reflections. And here's what Virgil said. I found ModPo at a very important point in my life, dealing with acute PTSD. My first year was 2013, and it was a lifesaver, literally. In 2012, when ModPo was first run, I was in Afghanistan. I had started writing poetry while in Afghanistan as a means to deal with the craziness of the situation I found myself in. My first poem was written while sitting in a small combat outpost that overlooked a British graveyard from the 19th century in Afghanistan. Another mistake, right? That you couldn't really tell was a graveyard any longer. It was so overgrown, and there were sheep and goats grazing upon it. They and us were one of the many foreign interlopers who tried to conquer Afghanistan and were never successful. So I found ModPo, they call Afghanistan the graveyard of empires for a reason. So I found ModPo as part of my effort to get better at writing poetry, which was helping me with my PTSD. Poetry was therapy. ModPo isn't a poetry writing course, but I figured that learning about poetry would be a good thing. Boy, is that an understatement. I found the syllabus and course videos interesting and strange. I had no idea what a close reading was. I had seen very few of the poems and only knew a few of the poets featured. It was quite an evolution as I began to see the wisdom in the approach, close reading, and learning about all these poets was amazing. There's no doubt that ModPo made my own poetry better. What really made ModPo for me was and is the community. That really makes it stand out from other MOOCs, massive open online courses. Al and the TAs take the MOOCs to another level entirely. There is engagement there. I opened up some, and people responded. ModPo that year turned into a huge therapy session for me, and I will be forever grateful. And after that, he volunteered to be a community TA, and he's been one ever since. I have been here every year since, some years more than others. What ModPo did for me goes far beyond learning about poetry or interacting with a lot of nice people from literally everywhere in the world. I credit it with helping me keep my sanity. And after all these years, it remains fun and new, even if I have seen some of the poems over and over. There is always something new to learn and new people to meet and old friends to revisit. ModPo is home. I hope it is always around. So that's Virgil H. Houston, Jr. Thank you, Virgil. We love you so much. I know you're watching today. And I remember that first year, 2013. I remember your participation, and it was at turns quizzical and angry, and you were so into it, and it was great. And it's a testament to you that you stuck around. Okay, and now here's Dan's video, and I'm not sure how magical. Oh, Zach really knows what to do here. I hope everybody sees it. And then Julia, Monica, Amber Rose, Kate, and Erica, you can respond any way you like.
Happy birthday, ModPo. Hi, I'm Dan Bergman, and because I have non-speaking autism, I am typing these words into a text-to-speech computer. Before I got my undergraduate degree at the Harvard Extension School, before I contributed to 2 episodes of Penn Sound's Poem Talk, before I spent my first year of college at Penn, I enrolled in the first ever version of ModPo, and if I hadn't, I don't see how the other items on that list could have followed. ModPo put the study of poetry, and therefore the study of life itself, within my ability as a 16-year-old beset by autism. I could run around the room and scream during the videos as long as I came back to answer the questions. I could take as long as I needed to write a very short essay. And when I did, someone else would read it, someone who didn't know me except through that essay. I had to keep up. Week 1 was quickly followed by week 2, something you all may have noticed. And my reward for keeping up was the knowledge that for the first time in my life I was following a curriculum that had not been adapted to my special needs. I know now that it's not just me. ModPo makes poetry, and Al and the people who sit around the table at Kelly Ryder's house, accessible to hundreds of thousands of people, all with individual needs. And so what if everyone, even those without autism, is beset by something? In the past 10 years we have all become aware that the internet can potentiate the weakest sides of human nature. But ModPo is one of the great human inventions, and it would not have been possible without the internet and people who believe that real information could and should be shared all over the world and for free. Coursera was born sharing information about machine learning with engineers who had no access to college. But Al took the idea a big step forward. What we share in ModPo isn't exactly information. It's the joy of the shared quest to turn information into meaning. These days we are surrounded by data, but in ModPo we turn data back into meaning. And ModPo goes further. Gertrude Stein would not have appreciated the idea that her poems were about creating meaning. Rather, she drains just enough meaning from her arrangement of words to enable us to revel in their flavor. I know, from all the other Coursera courses I have taken and all my in-person college courses, that ModPo is unique. ModPo models, that's an autism jargon word, it means setting an example. ModPo models people coming together in a group to work towards understanding something. That meant more to me than anything. I saw those young adults sitting at the table with Al and wanted to sit there with them. Keeping up and doing all the work and earning that certificate was the hardest thing I had ever done. Before I started, Mom used to say,
"But how will Danny ever learn to write more than one sentence at a time?"
I learned during ModPo. My parents took me to the Final Words webcast. Al asked people there to pick 2 words that summed up the experience of the course for them.
Let's hear Daniel's first.
Yeah, so he had a 2-word poem. Michael, why don't you read it?
Wait a minute, let's get the mic to Michael.
Dan's 2 words are not impossible.
Wait, who's going to say it?
It became a thing. Someone started a forum topic called Not Impossible, and people wrote in all the things they were determined to accomplish for themselves. Many of them said that if I could do ModPo they could do some other thing they had always wanted to accomplish. And I learned to my astonishment that I, who needed so much help to do anything, could be of use to other people. Thank you, Jason, for making sure my 2 words got heard and then inviting me to be a guest in one of your classes and then inviting me to enroll in your summer school course. Thank you, Al, for backing me all along the way and also insisting that I grow up, and thank you, Kate Herslin, a recent student of ours, for taking me to classes and putting up with me as I learned to tolerate it and contribute in real time. It took a lot. But does anyone really need any less? Back then I could only describe what ModPo wasn't. Now I hope I have shared a little about what it is. Thank you.
Dan Bergman. There's Dan. Thank you. Zach, can you bring my mic back up, please? Thank you, Dan, and Michael and Meredith, who are also along for the ride. I'd like to add Jason to that list of people to respond. So, and you'll have to be brief, but really, really excited to hear from people who are very close to Dan, people who have seen him in action, to others, Monica meeting him for the first time. So Julia Block first, followed by Monica.
Yeah, I'm incredibly moved by both of those moments that we just heard, and I'm going to say something that might sound a little wonky, but I remember when we were getting started, we were like, there can't be a certificate, there can't be there can't be quizzes, there can't be a hoop to jump through. This is not about achievement. This is about an experience. But in true ModPo tradition, we hacked the certificate, and so did students like Dan. Like, you made the certificate what you needed it to be, and that was the vision from the very beginning.
Thank you, Julia. Monica and Amber Rose is on deck.
I'm so moved. I'm almost speechless. But I was thinking, apropos of what Virgil was saying, PTSD, and reading the same material over and over and over again sometimes, and keeping returning to the work. I was thinking about, it's something often on my mind, this idea that we change, we go back to a text, and we can we can gauge our evolution, our experience, what we've learned in life, when we measure it against our reading of the same piece, because literature does not change. A poem does not change. We change. And I am always, like, I go back to something and I go, I can't believe I missed this thing that I've read 15 times. And every time I go back to a text, it gives me more and more and more. And it's this beautiful dance between what I know about myself, what I know about the work, and how it just keeps blossoming and giving more. So yes, it's a great way of overcoming and learning from one's traumas and losses and life, really, because it's full of it. So that's
that's what you said works so beautifully for reading poetry in particular, especially poetry that is deemed by many to be difficult. One has to read it again and again and grow with it, to the experience of these two extraordinary people who, in both cases, need to do repetition. It's just part of the nature. Need to do repetition and are making the best of that particular incredible quality of theirs to do things again and again and stick with them until you master them or can figure out a way to make something bigger of them. And it's a great parallel between the situations that have been described here, and they're just two of many, I can assure you, of people around the world, and what we do with poetry. What a good match. Who knew that would be the case? Amber Rose and Kate is on deck. Hi, Amber Rose.
Hi, Al. I'm going to lean forward. I don't know if I can actually be seen, but that's fine.
Yeah, look at that. They've got cameras everywhere.
This camera.
The Queen ain't got nothing on us. Everybody is observed.
Yeah, it was really wonderful to hear both of those reflections, and actually listening to the first made me think about June Jordan's poem, A Difficult Miracle, or The Difficult Miracle of Black Poetry in America. There's some title. Dr. Beavers knows the whole title. But whatever the poem is.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. The Difficult Miracle of Black Poetry in America, something like a sonnet for Phyllis Wheatley. There it is. But she talks about a poet needing their own, like when you imagine a poet has her own desk. A poet has her own pen, her own paper from which she writes her own ideas, right? And the scene that we were given of the poet looking over the overgrown grave in Afghanistan, that's not what we think of when we think of the poet or a poet who's writing. And I love that ModPo makes us release everything we thought we knew about who a poet can be, or who a critic of poetry is, or a reader of poetry is, or how they communicate, or where they show up, or what language they're writing in, or what they're doing in their spare time. And ModPo, gives us the opportunity to believe in the same way that, when Al just calls on us to say something and we have to say something, we have to believe that we're smart in that moment. And we really only believe because Al believes, because he asked us, right? And when we listen to each other, we affirm one another that just whatever ideas we woke up with that morning are valid and true and worth listening to. And I think Dan, shows that as well. But what I also want to say briefly about Dan is just that I'm so grateful that ModPo created the opportunity for us to be able to hear from folks like Dan, who is truly brilliant. I mean, just about needs to be my 4th dissertation advisor at this point.
That poem talk, the most recent one we did?
No, incredible. I mean,
Dan was amazing.
The questions that Dan has asked me in ModPo spaces, in poem talks, and then over emails, outside of ModPo, have been some of the most eye-opening, challenging questions I've ever been asked. And we would not have found each other, but maybe more importantly, we would not have believed that we could exchange ideas unless the context of ModPo existed. And for that, I'm very, very grateful.
Amber Rose Johnson, you said it beautifully. Wow. This is very cool. I had no idea we were going here. Kate is up, Erica's on deck, and then Jason. Hi, Kate.
I wanted to echo what Virgil and Dan and also Monica said about the repetition. I've also been here since 2013, participating in a variety of capacities, and ModPo always reminds me or puts me in mind of Heraclitus's river that you can't step in twice because it's not the same river and it's not the same man. And I loved what both Virgil and Dan said about, one's change over time and the therapeutic qualities of returning to this relatively small selection of poems year after year. And being able to track your own evolution or the evolution of your own thinking in doing that.
Kate, thank you so much. That was great. We turn to Erica and then Jason, and then we're going to move on to another topic. And the number is, there's still only one caller so far, 610-616-3208. Sorry, Erica.
Yeah.
Hi,
Thank
Erica.
you. Hi. I'm sort of struggling a bit for words because I feel so moved by Dan and Virgil and also the different comments that everyone has shared. Quickly, I would say that a couple of things are really resonating for me. And one is that, like Kate, I think I found my way to ModPo in 2013. And that was as a participant, and I had just moved upstate and was feeling lots of ways about being apart from a community that I was really quite involved in. And ModPo really became a space that I always make time for now because it represents something, and this is coming out of what I heard Dan saying, it represents something that's fairly radical as far as inclusivity. And, the idea that there is this space out there where people who would probably not otherwise be in conversation organically come together and work towards understanding something. And that something happens to be poetry, which I think is a significant part of what I love so much about ModPo, is that poetry presents these tiny puzzles that build communities around them because you can read and learn from them infinitely. And I'll stop there, but thank you all. And thank you, Al. I feel honored to be a member of this community.
Erica, the feeling is mutual. We're honored that you're part of the community here as a TA for so long. And the co-creator of the Teacher Resource Center, which you were involved in and Max helped with and others. Now we turn to Jason, and then we're going to switch gears.
Let's see. I mean, I remember that moment 10 years ago so crystal clear. And I know that it's my very severe ADHD, which can be really frustrating to deal with at times, also credit with, I think Al was wrapping things up and I saw Dan shaking over in the corner basically, and went over to get him the mic. And it's part of what makes community so powerful together is that because we get at meaning together, but it is not really as though the meaning pre-exists or coming together. Regardless of what the poet, writer may have intended, it's every single person's absolute singularity of self that the more so the poem grows, the more readers attend to it and discuss it. And I think that that's just and language itself is such we forget that language is made in the body, and that is one of the most intimate, embodied ways in which we call to one another. And we to go deep and to really think closely, even just about a word, is almost like it's like each word is an ocean and no two people swim through it the same. And all of us together create meaning
Alert from user auto-sync Fitbit.
At these places.
Alert from user Fitbit.
Anyway, I remember that the class that Dan took was a class on science and literature, and the topic was science and literature, language and love in science fiction. And it was looking at, how do these speculative things think about love? Do they see love in the future? And they all do in different ways. And I mean, we're in a situation which would have been, ModPo would have been a sci-fi idea 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're using a kind of medium language, which we can see in many different forms, to both, I guess what I want everyone to hear is that you are what you bring to the poem, no one else can bring. And so the more people who gather around, the more astonishing things can be, and the more it's a form of just, linguistic intimacy across the globe.
Jason, thank you so much. Jason Zuska, that was beautiful. Thank you. So what's going to happen next is I have a feeling someone's on the phone. Is that right, Zach? Someone's on the phone. We're going to take a phone call. Then I'm going to ask Max, Amber Rose, and Dave to see what chatter is going on out there. And we'll have a few people respond. And then we're going to turn to a poem by Ray Armentrout. And then we're going to do final words. We're going to wrap up. Okay. So who do we have on the phone? Chris Martin.
Just a quick note. Appy from Prague called in and just said thank you to everyone and is so happy
Appy
to be a
didn't want to stay on the line this time? Appy called us last week. So.
I'm standing. I'm too tall for the shot when I stand up.
Okay.
Somebody
said to me today, it's really good to meet you. You're actually taller now in person than you seem in the video. And I thought, that is the first time I've ever heard that. And I don't know who gave me that. Was that Marty? Thanks, Marty. I think Marty knew exactly what he was doing there. Anyway, Chris, go ahead.
So anyway, the person actually on the line, our dear friend Mandana.
Mandana's calling. All right. I think, Mandana, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. So there's a lot of microphones, so you're going to be picking up what I'm about to do. Mandana Chaffa, Anthony Watkins, Ray Maxwell. There are others. There's like 10 people who have really helped this thing go. T is another one. And there's a number of people, and Mandana's one of them. And so what I'd like to do is put our hands together so that Mandana in New York, who can't be with us today, can hear us applaud her efforts. Well, Mandana, you know the drill. It's Al keeping time. So whatever you have to say, I might get us to discuss, or I might just let us take it in and move on. So, no pressure or anything. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very excited. You're not going to ask me an impromptu question in your Socratic way.
I was thinking about that.
I know. Yeah, you'd like to do that.
It's actually anti-Socratic, but we'll talk about that another time. Socratic is the question is leading you to, in a lawyer-like way, to the conclusion that the Socrates figure already knew. The fact is, I don't know anything about where we're going. So I ask questions that are faux Socratic.
I don't think any of us know where we're going, but you're asking someone who wasn't born in this country and speaks English as a second language to understand the nuances of the Socratic method.
Oh, you're being silly. I mean, wasn't Socrates Persian anyway?
We were all Persian.
I know
at some
Greek.
point,
I was being
right?
funny.
So really, all I want to do is say thank you very much. It's been really so moving listening to everyone and watching all of these beloved faces in the room, and thinking about the thousands more beloved faces that are not in the room, and thinking. Also, I've been reading some Ross Gay. He has a new book out, and thinking about how, in a lot of ways, this is a community garden. That you provided us the space and you provide all of the nutrients that we need. But, excuse me, what's so meaningful is that everyone comes and plants their own flower and plants their own weed, plants their own whatever. And as hard as it is to navigate sometimes around this enormous site, what's truly a gift is that each time you come, or each time I come, I'll speak personally, I see something more beautiful, something I've never seen before, and it inspires me in my own small way, maybe to plant a seed there as well. And that whole garden perspective is something that we need both literally right now and certainly emotionally, and this is really only the beginning. It's wonderful to have this celebration, but I'm thinking about all the years to come and all the new people whom I haven't met yet, who are going to change my thinking, change my world, change my own vision of myself. So I'm looking forward to all those people who I will hopefully be around long enough to meet. And on a personal level, I just genuinely can't thank you enough for everything on so many levels that you've done for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mandana. The feeling is mutual. Mandana Chaffa calling from New York. Okay, we're going to turn to Max, then Amber Rose, then Dave to see if there's things happening. Max first, Twitter. What's happening on Twitter?
Lots of familiar names chiming in, enthusiastically wishing ModPo a happy birthday. We have T. De Los Reyes saying, ModPo is my safe space amidst typhoons and grief and trauma, and an astonishing source of joy that has grown roots in my life over the past decade.
T is, a lot of typhoons. It seems to be when ModPo is running, there's always the typhoons. T is near Manila. And
called them last week, right? And we were just saying this about the typhoon season, huh?
Yeah, and it's 14 hours ahead, so it's also the middle of the night. Thanks, T. We love you. What else, Max? Anything?
Jeremy Dixon was
From
responding
Wales.
to video Dan, saying, Dan, fabulous, heart, heart, heart. We have Ray Maxwell tweeting from within the room.
Ray is addicted to Twitter, man. Anybody who follows Ray Maxwell? I'm the only one? All right, well, you're about to get some more, Ray. Although his politics are hot. His politics are hot, so you got to be ready for that. Right, Ray? Thanks, Max. Thank you so much. Amber Rose, what do we have? I bet it's busy there.
Yes, the YouTube, mic check. The YouTube is all the way live. Kamara Brown is watching on YouTube.
Kamara.
Yes, so love to Kamara.
Should be working at the full-time job.
Yes, who's working at the full-time job, but watching, and that's why she's not
Taking a
participating,
break.
but watching.
Yeah.
Lots of folks were happy to see Anthony and his hat.
Anthony, where's that hat? Can we get a shot of Anthony in the hat?
Someone said, "Is that Anthony with his hat?"
There he is.
There's the hat.
Came all the way
There it
from
is.
Florida to be with us.
Anthony with the hat. Lots of folks happy to see Dan. Folks cheering on Irene and the sound of the new book. Sanjeev, of course, shout out to Sanjeev. 10th year for ModPo.
He's like single-handedly holding up a 12,000-person Facebook group. How
We
does
love
he
Sanjeev.
do that?
And really quickly, let's see. Raham says, I dwell in ModPo. It's here where I reach my possibilities. Hannah says, it's miraculous to be both inclusive internationally and yet so homely. And Rana responds, ModPo makes both unimaginably possible.
That's great. Thank you, Amber Rose, and thank you all. And Dave, what do we have in the special forum? Anything going on there?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd like to share is a comment by Jim Lynch that you commented on earlier, Al, on the forum, where he said that he doesn't know if he'll be able to watch the webcast live because he's having his roof replaced tomorrow, which, I don't know if is an homage to
Roof
Emily Dickinson.
replace, ModPo webcast. Roof replace, ModPo webcast. I know what I would choose. Because for an everlasting roof, the gambrels
Exactly.
of the sky.
Yeah, which I guess is not great at keeping the rain out. But
Well,
so he
I have a feeling that Emily Dickinson did not really think too much about the actual roof, but whatever.
So he wanted to leave a short comment for Imagism Week, a quote from Emerson from his 1834 journal, in which he prophesizes the Imagists and Williams, in his view, and even Duchamp's or the Baroness's urinal. And this is a quote that Jim Lynch shares. What is there of the divine in a load of bricks? What is there of the divine in a barber shop or a privy? Much, all. And he adds, for divine, read poetic. So I think that's
Emerson the Modernist. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So what we're going to do before we do final thoughts is I'm going to read a poem by Ray Armantrout, a very early one and a very short one. And I'm going to ask the following people. This is a lightning round, people, so you have to just respond very quickly to it, okay? Dave, back to Dave. Dave, Sophia, Herm, Liz, Anna, and Robin Cohn, who's here in the audience. Hi, Robin. Okay, Dave, Sophia, Herm, Liz, Anna, Robin. Lightning round. Got to be lightning round real fast. I'm going to read the poem. It's called Anti-Short Story. And you don't have it? Well, you're going to have to hear it, but it's pretty easy to hear. Uh-oh, says Lainey. All right, here it is. All right. Anti-short story. A girl is running. Don't tell me she's running for her bus. All that aside. Okay, here it is again. Anti-short story, which really tells you the whole ideology here. A girl is running. Don't tell me she's running for her bus. Running for her bus is in quotes. All that aside. All right, lightning round. Dave Poplar, quick. You're first, and Sophia's on deck.
I just love Don't Tell Me, a poem, which is, it seems like so much traditional poetry is following. It's following a form, and it's trying to do something within a form. And just saying, don't tell me, is really, really profound.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dave. Sophia, lightning round. Needs a mic.
What I really love about this poem is that we can just have a girl be running, and that can be poetry.
Mm. That is lightning round. Love that. Good model. Herm.
It's a blue note.
Oh, I think you do have to explain that.
So it's a blue note because it's dissonant.
Yeah. Yeah. The poem and the scene. Nice. Thank you. Liz?
I don't know. I think, obviously it's a refusal of narrative, but also just a refusal of explanation. It makes me think about Stein saying, never apologize, never explain. Like, don't tell me what the purpose is, put that aside. Then we get poetry.
It's really a formative little piece that Ray wrote, to get herself set up for a life of poems that imply that. Anna and then Robin Cohn.
Had an exchange with a high school student yesterday after reading Dickinson poems where the kid, a little frustrated, said, "Why can't she just say what she means?" Fair, I get it. But I responded, isn't it so much more fun to do the work?
And I've heard you say that before. In fact, 11 years ago when we made the videos, it's exactly what you kept saying.
Isn't it more fun
to
do the work?
And you've done the work, so thank you for that. Robin Cohn. Robin, would you stand up? I'm about to out you as the voice of the Baroness. Was it 9 years ago or 10? Is that true? You were the voice of the Baroness?
Yes,
so
not Mandana. It was...
Yeah, I thought it was Mandana. One day we get a call in a webcast, and you on the phone, and I said, "Who's calling?" You said, "It's the Baroness." And Robin did this you did it with a British accent, and the Baroness definitely had a German accent.
I tried German. I couldn't really do it. Not that I could do the British very well either.
But you stayed in character. It was so cool. And then when I came down to Florida, to West Palm Beach, we had a little close reading. You came to that too, and this is the second time I'm meeting you, I think. So thanks. Thanks for coming all this way.
Thank you for ModPo.
Yeah.
For making me step outside my comfort zone and teaching us that there aren't necessarily rules to follow, and we can make our own rules.
Yeah. Thanks. Do you want to respond to Ray Armitrout?
Well, that's how that struck me. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me the way it's supposed to be. Kind of.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, kind of there's a Laureen Niedecker fuck off sort of. Tracy?
I have a thought. It's a little bit outside of that.
Please.
It's people often say, "Don't tell me," when they want to be the one to say it. Like, don't ruin the surprise. Wait, don't tell me. She's running for the bus. Like, it could be a relationship with joy. That's what also why I heard as a possible emotion.
Especially because when you see a girl running for the bus, you worry that she's fleeing something, and that creates a whole social narrative that Ray is saying, we got some work to do, as Anna said. Okay.
Put expectations aside. Right. Yeah.
And all that aside is also the tradition of the short story, which tells instead of shows, up with poetry, Down with short stories. Sorry about that. Does Dan have something? Oh, wait, we don't have a mic. Oh, but no, don't shout. Amber Rose has got it.
Thank you. Dan says, all that aside could be the motto for struggling with autism.
Oh, man, Dan. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm counting the number of people here, and it strikes me as about the number of minutes that we have. So what's going to happen is I'm going to ask people, and I'll tell you who's on deck, for final thoughts. I'm going to ask people to contribute final thought. Your final thought has to be about 45 seconds or less if we're going to have our lunch. And Sophia, what's the process for lunch? Is it happening? Is it there? Did it arrive? Yeah. And is there a tiny bit of it? No. There's a lot. Okay. And I'm sorry for all the webcast people around the world. Kat, it's the middle of the night and you're hungry for Indian food, but it's not happening for you. It's only happening for us, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But we'll send you pints of it later because there's going to be plenty. Okay. So Dave Poplar's first. Sorry, Dave. Final thought. Sophia is on deck. Sophia will need a portable mic. And then Julia. Dave, final thought.
I'm just going to echo something that Kim in Barcelona said in the Happy Birthday forum, where she said, happy birthday. And she mentioned, though I'm a terrible student, I followed you faithfully because you give me so much joy and encouragement, plus a strong sense of connection. And I just want to say, first, obviously, there's no such thing as a terrible student in ModPo. It's not constructed that way like a traditional class. And it's a testament to the class, like in the way that, Erica described it as having radical inclusivity. And Julia talked about how it hacks the traditional structure, that it is able to provide all this support and community for people, regardless of how they approach it as a traditional student or as a terrible student, which is a misnomer here. So just want to say
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Kim. Kim, longtime ModPoer in Spain. Sophia's up and Julia Block's on deck.
I saw T's tweet, the one that Max read out loud, and I replied with a phrase that Davey Niddle taught me when I was an undergrad. Mm-hmm. And he said, the classroom can't always be a safe space, but it can be a brave space. And I like to think of ModPo as a brave space where people are encouraged and inspired and have the courage to speak and always be listened to. So I think being listened to is one of my most appreciated aspects of ModPo.
Thank you, Sophia Durose. Julia Block, followed by Herm.
Al started out by saying this whole event by saying we're celebrating this, and you were holding up a physical copy of a book, but you obviously also meant the word this, which is so important to this course. And if anyone has followed, I remember many discussion threads on the word this, and it seems to me that one of the things that's happening here, and one of the things that's made just an unbelievable impact on my entire lifetime of teaching, is that this is the kind of teaching and learning that is attentive, radically attentive to each discrete moment, this moment, and then the next moment, and then the next moment of this.
Julia Block, of visitors the fairest. For occupation, this. Yeah. And Julia Block, an original ModPoer. Thank you for being around, to say the least. Herm, followed by Monica.
So I'm going to riff off of Julia with her this. And I'm going to say that every time I hear about ModPo, every time I hear about little snatches of conversations that happened, I always say, I wish I was there.
Love that. Thanks, Herm. You're such a good friend of this project and, of course, of the Writers House Project, whose board you serve on, and we really appreciate your time. Monica, followed by Tracy.
I have to say, I love the pace of these conversations. You're incredible at keeping the conversation going. One thing that happens to me when I've done it before with these conversations about poems is, wait, this is great, but can we go back to the poem? Because so many inquiries and avenues of thought are opened up by the conversations that I kind of want to return to the Armentrout. I want to go back to the to the Pound poem that we didn't talk about, Stevens, etc. So that also is another way of keeping us engaged. It's like it's like I'm supercharged, and I know that going back to the work, I will bring this energy back to my reading experience, and that it's being generated collectively is absolutely astonishing and miraculous. So thank you, Al.
Wouldn't it be cool if Monica De La Torre could be convinced to lead a slow po 10-day class in ModPo, just so you can keep going. What do you think? Okay. Sophia, please take a note. I turned that around into a deal. I'm so sorry, Monica. I know how busy you are.
Many witnesses here.
Tracy, followed by Ron.
Yeah, hey. I'm really honored to be part of the ModPo pod core of the last part of the
Whatever
reading.
the hell this is.
The pod of I think week 8 or something.
You are in week 10, actually.
Week 10?
But you appear earlier
But
as
I
well.
just show up
And
randomly.
John Knight just showed up right on time for the food. Yeah, John.
And one of the things that I think is a great talent of yours, Al, is not only the openness that I talked about in terms of the ways of thinking of Stevens and his relevance to Black existential crises, which is interesting, is you're a very excellent synthesizer of information from different sources so that everybody feels included. And that's quite a skill. So I think that speaks to not only your, it's an artistic skill, you know, but it's also very sophisticated pedagogy. So everybody sees how you like the organizing, but that particular skill of synthesizing different disparate points and instead of emphasizing their differences, seeing how they're part of a similar template is really quite, I take notes on that excellence. I really do.
Well, being complimented by Tracy Morris is something to aspire to. I appreciate that. And yeah, I think I stopped teaching a long time ago. What I do now is I convene.
Wow, what a generous thing to say, though.
I do not teach. My students are in this. It's a bunch of students are here. I don't teach. Yesterday it was like, we started class saying, we went around, listed the poems. Okay, vote. Which poem should we talk about? And then we literally, when I used the idiom vote with your feet, they didn't understand what that meant. It's not an idiom, but they voted with their feet. And then we talked about the poems they voted on. That's not teaching, that's convening. Okay.
You may not teach, but the students learn.
Thank you, Michael. I like you too. Okay, Ron and Liz is on deck.
As a poet with autism, I want to note the inclusivity of everything here, both in the room, in ModPo, at Writer's House, and at Penn. It's an extraordinary opportunity. As a first-generation college student in my family who did not finish college, I know that I could not get an interview at a place like Westchester, but I get to teach here.
Yeah.
And I get the most wonderful students, some of whom get married about 6 blocks from my house.
Intentionally.
Later on. And it's been a marvelous experience. And it was an accident in my case, because when I moved here, Writer's House did not yet exist.
That's right.
Sean Walker was not yet sleeping here overnight to keep people from stealing the folding chairs.
Because the door wouldn't lock.
And the world has changed for the better for this place. Thank you.
Ron Silliman, thank you so much. That's beautiful. And by the way, I recommend the experience of reading everything that Ron has written, which is, by the way, a damn lot. But because you were a Writer's House Fellow, I and my students read everything, and I truly understand these various points of intersection and approach. I think I understood you by reading the poem and poetry, and I have revered that complicatedness of you ever since. So there you go. You're complicated. Thank you, Ron. Amazing writer. Liz, and not speaking of amazing writers, Liz, and then Amber Rose.
Okay. None of this would be possible if someone hadn't messed with the form that they inherited. Coursera did not imagine ModPo. Al Filreis imagined ModPo. And that is an act of poesis on an incredible scale. So thank you. Generosity really is the word for that. It is an act of making. It is an act of remaking the way we think, the possibilities for how we interact. And I am forever grateful for this. So
Thank you, Liz.
ModPo is of hundreds of thousands of minds, like a tree. To return to
Liz
Stevens.
Willis. Thank you, Liz. Wow, that was lovely. And Chris and Zach and Anna and I, and now Lainey, when we make these trips, have made several trips to Coursera and Mountain View to try to persuade them of one thing, that the most important element of the platform is the discussion forums. That's not important to them. It needs to be. We are currently engaged in a big argument about the importance of the sub-forums. And so it's an ongoing thing. And who knew I'd be, and you were involved in that too. That's right, you made a visit. You were in Southern California at the time, and just trying to teach them again, because in these startups, these tech startups, there's so much turnover of the staff that you have to remind them something like, yes, even in a massive open online course, people want to talk to each other. You need to have a discussion forum that makes it possible. Thank you, Liz. Amber Rose, followed by Anna.
Is that my technical title for this year is the Poetic Practice Fellow, Graduate Fellow at the Kelly Writers House.
Yes, much deserved.
And that's actually, like, to the world outside, that's a really, I mean, to me too, it's a really fantastic fellowship. But what makes it so nice is that it's this really prestigious fellowship that feels like I'm coming home, and I'm getting to continue to spend time with the people who have been really holding it down for me in this PhD program from the very beginning. So I'm super grateful. I'm closing with C. Ross's note on the YouTube chat. I love how open, inclusive, loving, supportive, creative, empathetic, witty, charming, exploratory, and creative and limitless our global ModPo community is. Always this, here, now, wow.
I love that. Thank you, Amber Rose. Anna, followed by Allie Castleman.
So I think if you know Al, as many of us do, you know that the word teaching assistant doesn't mean I have a grad student who can, like, grade my papers for me. That's, like, not what it means to you at all. What it means to you is I'm going to give you the gift of this pedagogy, and now you're going to do it too. So if you take ModPo, if you're a TA, if you're a community TA, even if you're just a student who comes back again, if you take the kind of lessons of this class along with you, when you called me into your office 10 years ago to say, like, hey, we're doing this thing this summer. Like, do you want to come? Do you want to do this? I had no inkling in that point that, like, teaching would become my life's work. But this is where I found that. Thank you, Al.
Anna Strong-Safford. Thank you, Anna. And boy, is Anna a great teacher. Oh my gosh. You are very good. When are you going to become chair of that department out there? Soon, I imagine. You don't want to do that? No administration? It's the only way you get this shit done, though. I'm sorry to say. It's sort of what Liz was saying. You just... Okay, we'll talk. All right. Allie, followed by Lainey. Allie, followed by Lainey.
I think because we started this webcast with 13 ways, I think something Irene said made me think of 5. And that stanza goes, I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos, the blackbird whistling or just after. And I'm just thinking about the conversation that ModPo creates, and that the poetry, the poems, is the whistling. And what we do here is the just after. And the poems in themselves, like, that ends, they're finite. But the just after is infinite, and it keeps going.
That's lovely. Boy. Another great teacher, Allie Castleman. Lainey, followed by Jason.
Borrow this. I just want to echo what's been said about radical inclusivity, and I'm just overwhelmed, kind of in awe with the amazingness in this room. And when I say the room, I mean the ever-expanding room. So those of us who are here, those of us who are Zooming in, those of us all over the world, the person tomorrow or in 10 years from now who's going to join the conversation, and I just have a lot of gratitude, and I want to say thanks to Al also for this combination of brilliance and the ethos of benevolence. Brilliance is going to get us nowhere without that ethos that it's for everyone, and you've created this space for us, and I'm grateful.
I feel like it's my birthday. Thank you, Lainey. I so enjoy working with you. I was scared shitless when Anna said, I think I need to move on and be a teacher. No, I was mad at you for 5 minutes. And then Lainey Brown came along. So I was already here, actually. Jason, followed by Gabby.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the people around the world who I've gotten to know and who are reaching towards poetry, which some would think doesn't happen anymore. But I think this class shows that people know they're craving something, and possibly the thing they're craving largely is poetry. They wouldn't even think it, but slowly students of this class can spread the word. And I'm grateful to Al for letting me be a part of this since it started. And I just think of the Wallace Stevens poem in ModPo Plus, Anecdote of the Jar. I placed a jar in Tennessee. Around it was upon a hill. I'm not gonna. You can go read it yourself. But everything changes with the simple act of placing this glass, clear, round thing on a hill in Tennessee in this poem. And that's what Al has done in the global Tennessee. So thank you so much.
The global Tennessee. Now, there's a thought. Jason, thank you. I keep thinking about what Liz said. Liz used the word form, and that's what that poem is about. You put a form out there, and instead of something perfect and clear and glass, wildness grows up around it. And that's how form gets defined by nature. Gabby, followed by Max.
Yeah, I think what I want to say is one of the long-term lessons that ModPo and teaching with you and learning with you has taught me is that the kind of aesthetic difficulty that we like is really amenable to the collaborative kind of piece by piece reading that we do. Because I feel like when you first step into it, it's sort of weird. It's a kind of like getting to learn the language of it a little bit. But I have found so much that like these tough poems that seem sort of inscrutable really become and flourish into something else when we do it the way we do. So I'm thankful to that, and many happy returns of the day.
Thank you, Gabby. And we're going to be out in Chicago in October. I'm going to be sending a lot of messages about that to everybody, and Gabby's going to be joining us for a lot of that. So that's going to be exciting. Max, followed by Kate.
Yeah, I just want to shout out and thank all the people around the world who have joined me in the various meetups and let me cut my facilitator. I just forgot the next the word that goes with cut in the city of
teeth. You cut your
let me
teeth.
practice my facilitating skills with them, and have been very generous and patient. People like Susanna, who I believe is in the room, if I saw correctly,
Suzanne,
who's part of our
here?
European Time Zone meetup group,
Yeah.
although she doesn't live on European time. So thanks to all those folks, and I'm going to cut it off there because it sounds like you have a really fabulous lunch to get to.
Yeah, Max, we miss you and wish you could join us for lunch, but come and visit, please, soon. Kate, followed by Erica.
I'll also be brief and just say happy birthday, ModPo. And I'm so grateful to have been brought into this fold. You all make me so much smarter and make me feel smarter, which is always appreciated.
Thanks, Kate. And Kate's going to be visiting us in person here in November, so we're really looking forward to that. Okay, I want to thank some people, two people that I thanked before, but it's really, they make this thing possible. Chris Martin often goes out on the road to give talks about how we do this interactive webcast. It really is hard to reproduce. It has nothing to do with the Coursera site. It's completely outside of it, and it's kind of a miracle. So Chris and Zach, will you guys actually stand up? Chris Martin and Zach Gardner. And I want to turn to Erica for a final thought, and then my final thought is going to be via a friend of ours from Australia. So, Erica Kaufman, final thought.
Thanks, Al. My final thought has to do with inclusion, pedagogy, and community, and my gratitude, of course. But I'm a person who's in the business of thinking about pretty much only pedagogy and poetry 98% of the time. And the amount that I've learned through ModPo is really incredible. And I want to just thank the people around who are willing to talk about these things in direct conversation with each other, which includes everyone in ModPo. And I also just want to say that I'm teaching a poetry writing course this semester, which I've not really done before. And it was amazing to be able to turn to the example of ModPo for ideas of what to do and how to do it. And also to know that I could email people like Lainey and Liz and Julia, who all helped me. So thank you all, and thank you, Al, and thank you, ModPo.
Thank you so much, Erica. Okay, so I just want to remind everybody that who's watching in the webcast, as well as the people in the room, that at 6 p.m. we'll be back. This crew, the 6 special guests, will be reading and talking about their contribution to the differences spreading. We have copies of this book for sale after this event, throughout lunch and throughout the day. And then this evening we'll have more copies, and you can get these characters to sign it, thus making it, is it more or less valuable? I can't remember. Thus making it much more valuable, at least to you. Differently valuable. Okay, I want to conclude where we began with free. This shit should be free. There is nothing remunerative. I don't see anybody, these are really important poets at this table, no one is rolling in it because of royalties. Right? I mean, it's just not happening. Right? I mean, I remember talking with...
I got a royalty of 78 cents.
I mean, I'm telling you. I remember having a conversation with John Ashbery, who really would have appreciated a couple of checks. And he got more royalty checks than probably most of the people at this table, but it was still not enough to make a living, so he had to teach at Bard. I just left that. I just left that. Anyway, Bard. There's nothing remunerative about poetry. Why did anybody think that massive open online courses were going to produce revenue? There's no way. We've stuck to our guns. It's free. It'll always be free. And I want to conclude with Laura DiBernardi, who wrote about this in her praise, her birthday celebration of ModPo. We'll conclude with that. Thank you again for being part of this event. We really can't wait to have, it's only 10 minutes late. We can't wait to join you, those of us in the room. Have your own Indian food, those of you who are far away. It's the commitment to free and accessible education for all, says Laura. I was born into poverty, and but for a progressive government in Australia, which made education free for all when I was growing up, I could not have attended university. Looking back, I know what an incalculable difference that made to me. So much of what I am today, the pleasure I take in literature and the work I had the good fortune to do, all that came from this university education. But when I first joined ModPo, I took the fact that it was free for granted. I didn't think about it. Then, when we were chatting in a thread about ModPo and education one day, Al informed us of the enormous struggles that ensued when the pressure was on to make MOOCs, including this MOOC, fee-paying. It was as if a light went off in my mind that day. An institution was paying for all this, and people were defending it. And I was finally sitting up and taking notice. It's the passionate conviction in education for all that moved me here at ModPo as much as it did when I was a young woman and unexpectedly walked into the University of Melbourne and saw a new life open up before me. From that point onward, my attitude to ModPo changed, and I no longer took it for granted. So here is for free. Here's for you guys paying for airfare from Madrid and Central Florida or wherever you guys are. You know, here's for people flying in from everywhere. Here's for Anna taking a day off. They're probably going to dock your pay. Right? Here's for Chris and Zach doing a whole lot of extra work that's not in the job description because they are the key, technically, to giving this stuff away for free. We are so incredibly grateful for everybody who's essentially volunteering to do all this. Don't ask me how this came about. It's true. I have no idea. There was no formula. It's utter chaos. But it is the best thing that I've done as a university professor, and it almost has nothing to do with the university because Laura is not quite right that the institution was paying for all this. It's the Kelly Writers House that's paying for it. So thank you for being here. Thank you all. Let's give these people a real big round of applause. Okay. So we're going to sign out on the webcast, and we're going to go in the other room and have a party. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Al.
Here's champagne.
Champagne.
Anna, will you be in charge?